14 years I've been working with SPRATs, which is Sea Spurge Remote Area Teams, on the mostly World Heritage listed west and south coasts of Tasmania, doing remote area weed management, particularly concentrating on sea spurge and marram grass eradication. Now, over the last 14 years, we've removed something like 14 million sea spurge plants, and we've reduced the amount of sea spurge in this area by about 99.9%. We've still got a few more years to go because it's still got seedlings coming through, but we've actually transformed some really large patches of weeds into easy to manage, smaller dispersed areas. We've also been working on spraying marram grass, and we've reduced the amount of marram grass by about 85% in our work area. Now, this project came about because I've been walking the south and west coast of Tasmania for at least the last 40 years, and over this time I've seen a steady increase in the area covered by various weeds. Now, a feature of SPRATs is the collection of detailed geo-referenced data on all work performed, all weeds removed, how long it takes you to walk from between various parts of the coast, and that means that we can actually program GPS units for all the past jobs. We can produce detailed maps of where we've been, where we want to go next year, and that can really increase our efficiency at doing weeding. Now, our biggest challenges in doing this work has been the nature of where we're working. It's wilderness coast, it's remote, it's very hard to access, and that means that we've been limited to doing one management trip per year. Because of the remote area, we need to use helicopters for access, and that means we've got significant costs involved in actually running the projects, although because all the work is done by volunteers, the cost is actually not that great compared to the outcomes. For example, we've had about $300,000 in grant money over the 14 years, but we've done over $2 million worth of volunteer time in that period. And that means that we have about a 7-to-1 ratio between grant money versus volunteer work. Probably the biggest take-home message that I could put forward is collect information on what you're doing. Record how effective you've been, record what needs to be done in the next season, and use that to really comprehensively plan your program. The two key resources that I would suggest which really made our project stand out, first of all, it's our volunteers that are really highly respected and are looked after, and secondly, it's a spirit of having fun. And by having fun while you're out on that coastline, what happens is that the volunteers want to come back season after season after season. And that gives our project continuity, and it also radically reduces our training while radically increasing the effectiveness of the workers.
Hi, my name is Melanie Leather, and I'm a beef producer in Central Queensland. In 2019, I won the Farm Biosecurity Producer of the Year in recognition of our on-farm biosecurity practices. We own and manage 3 separate properties and frequently shift cattle and equipment. So for our business, a successful on-farm biosecurity plan is critical for us to protect our market access and the long-term sustainability of our business. The challenge for not only us, but for all of Australians, is to ensure border control is well resourced into the future, so it can continue to keep our country free from unwanted pests and diseases. Feral pigs are one of our main biosecurity threats within Australia at present, and I look forward to the development of the National Feral Pig Action Plan as an important resource that will assist with, hopefully, the eradication of the feral pig population in Australia. Recent animal health data on our cattle is showing a very high incidence of diseases that are spread by feral pigs. So we are not only seeing damage to pastures and waterways, the health of our cattle and people are at risk with diseases such as leptospirosis and brucellosis. Issues like this require a united approach. This is where I can see regional biosecurity plans being a valuable mechanism to combat this particular biosecurity threat. By bringing farmers, community, local and state governments together with a regional plan for a coordinated approach, we will be more successful in this fight against feral animals. And it's not only the fight against feral animals, it will also assist with other biosecurity threats that we have here in Australia.
Well, it was a curious case of the little beetle, which got into a few refrigerators, bound for Canberra, and they were discovered when those boxes were opened at a retailer, the Capra beetle. You don't want it here, it will cause problems. David Yates is director of the Australian National Insect Collection at the CSIRO and is with us on breakfast today. Hello to you, David Yates, and thank you for your time.
Good morning, Adam. How are you?
Let's just recall the Capra beetle sighting and how it got here. Let us know for those who weren't checking on the news, well, a few weeks ago.
Yes, Adam. It was quite an unusual case where a very observant member of the public found some unusual small beetles, I guess they resemble little carpet beetles, in some packaging that was surrounding a fridge that they'd recently purchased. And luckily enough, they thought that sighting of those insects was unusual, and they rang the Department of Agriculture hotline, and Department of Agriculture inspectors came out and had a look at these little brown insects, and lo and behold, they were a very, very dangerous invasive species that would be devastating to our grains industry if it actually got into Australia. So it was a species that occurs around the world but does not yet occur in Australia. So they're the things that we're really concerned about.
Hi, my name's Aaliyah, and I've been working on a project building preparedness for an exotic pest called the vegetable leaf miner fly, this guy right here, for the last 3 years as my role as a researcher at CSIR Australia. I was brand new to both biosecurity and agriculture at the start of this project, so it's been very challenging to figure out just how we could meet the variety of different needs of folks across biosecurity and agricultural spectrums. But one of the most important resources which helped us ultimately create some really practical resources was the generous time and insights given to us, particularly at the start of our project, by much more experienced people. Our project's been immensely collaborative, and I would need quite a lot longer than 2 to 3 minutes to do justice to everybody who's played an important role. But some of the most valuable experiences, for me in particular, were opportunities I got to see and participate in biosecurity systems from the inside. When it came to getting on the ground to study our target pest, where it currently resides up in the Torres Strait, it's impossible to exaggerate how important the folks in the Northern Australia quarantine strategy have been. We had some really incredible NARC chaperones from Cairns on our very first field trip who introduced us to the pests, the area, and the entire local community, helping us better understand the systems up there, plan effective fieldwork, and really importantly, create better connections with the community in the Torres Strait and Northern Peninsula area. And we were able to maintain those connections throughout our project, which in turn gave us more experimental support, participation in data collection surveys, and allowed us to share our findings with folks already affected by the pest. And this time spent working alongside the biosecurity officers helped us better understand their needs as folks who would ultimately be using our resources. And finally, thanks to the local community support we had on all of our trips, which gave us access to schools and gardens and other important field sites, we came home with some really exciting findings that have implications for the management of these pests across the rest of Australia. We found that already in the Torres Strait, these relatively new exotic pests were being really effectively controlled by up to 6 species of tiny parasitoid wasps, which are really quite beautiful up close, but really, really tiny. And these wasps are already well known overseas for being an absolute cornerstone in leaf miner management. We also already know that they do exist widespread across the rest of Australia, and now we knew that they could really effectively control vegetable leaf miner in particular. And that means we really already have everything we need to manage these pests as long as we can ensure these beneficial wasp communities are conserved. And that's one of the most important messages of our project that we've worked hard to share. So to sum up, what I think the biosecurity world can do to best ensure valuable and practical research is being created is to be as inclusive and as collaborative as possible, especially with external researchers and newcomers. And what we researchers can do to ensure our work is as useful as possible is to make sure to spend time working alongside actual end users and to seek out local knowledge and support wherever we can. Thanks.
Actually, when we got delivery from Italy, and the container had the Murray stink bugs in it, at the time we didn't know what to do. So we unloaded the container. At the time, we I notified the MD at the time, Ross McGee, and his reactions was reported straight away. And within half an hour, the federal biosecurity team were here. That day we got the whole company fumigated. So in the afternoon, shut down everybody out, fumigate the whole company, even containers. Yeah, from there, it was the local team just came in and take over. You know, the container coming from Italy, we knew it was foreign straight away, based on that. But I think the initial reaction was panic because, you know, something live from overseas came into Australia. If we were to report it, not knowing what's going to be the end result, whether we're going to get fined or anything, the unknown. And I think that's what, at the time, we were wondering what was going to be, but doing the right thing always had to be done. Yes, it delayed the whole process, and we had a number of projects at the time, but from a company point of view, which is they notify all our customers that this is what happened. There's a delay on receiving our products, and to their credit, it was a day or two delay within the fumigation process. But yeah, it was minimal as far as the impact goes. From a Hager point of view, Hager Australia, when we actually report the bugs, Hager Europe, Global, were very supportive as far as looking at what was the cause, what happened, how can we change it, and implement those changes. It was swift. I think a lot more campaign and making businesses aware of what these threats are, because before we reported these, we had no idea, absolutely nothing. We never know, and now that I'm aware of these issues, I think a lot of people are scared of doing the right thing because of the unknown. But if companies were made aware of, okay, this is the issues you have if you get these in the containers. Look, there's no penalties, there's nothing. As long as you report it, will help you eradicate all these issues. I mean, challenges, no. Success, I think for me the biggest success is, the local team. They're the real champion. They came in, they did all the groundwork. I mean, it was in the middle of the summer. These guys showed up, and to their credit, they go through bush lane, go around the local area. These are the real heroes here. We were just doing the right thing, reporting it. But to me, I guess the success is that the winery industry and our farmers not having these pests, destroying their crops. That's the biggest success you can get.